The news that emerged on Friday, not that we were stunned by it, but it puts meat on the bones that were thrown out there now 11 days ago by agent Mark Rogers, who represents Russell Wilson, and Mark Rogers identified the teams to which Russell Wilson would accept a trade, and of course one of those teams, the Chicago Bears. Let's refresh our memory from last week. Ryan Pace, the Bears GM, talking about their approach to addressing a fairly important position on any NFL team, quarterback.
Right now, for us, everything's on the table in regard to the quarterback situation. And honestly, that includes players on our current roster. That includes free agency, trade, the draft, and a combination of all those. So we have a plan in place, and now it's about executing that plan.
So the plan is in place, and it's now about executing that plan. By the way, his hair seems to like bridge the gap between yours and mine. He could go in the middle, and it would be just kind of like phases because he's got the on top and nothing on the side. Anyway, they are executing the plan. The Chicago Tribune reported on Friday that Plan A for the Chicago Bears, top priority, finding a way to get Russell Wilson to Chicago. And again, the Bears are one of the four teams. If we had talked about this 2 weeks ago, we'd be like, oh, okay, fine. Good luck, Bears. No, wait. The Bears, the Raiders, the Saints, the Cowboys, those are the four places to which Russell Wilson would accept a trade. So the Bears are in play, Chris. And we got 9 days before trades can officially happen. That doesn't mean it has to happen that day. It presumably, I don't know, presumably, there's nothing presumably about any of this because I've said before you need to wait until after June 1 to spread the cap hit between 2 years. Otherwise, the Seahawks take $39 million this year. The problem is they don't get the benefit of any draft picks this year if the trade doesn't happen before the draft.
Yeah.
If it has to wait until June 2, you don't get the picks unless they come up with some crazy, kooky, separate trade where they send like a kicker to see from Seattle to Chicago for all those draft picks with the, wink, wink, nod, nod. We're going to trade Russell Wilson for peanuts later, but I don't think the league would let that happen.
No.
You got the timing. So the timing is job number one, and job number two is figuring out the compensation, and then job number three is figuring out how to make it all work under the salary cap. It just, to me, feels like too many moving parts, too much to make happen, too much of a cap consequence for the Seahawks. It's fun to think about, fun to talk about, but, man, they got some mountains to climb to get this done.
I mean, mountains to climb, yes, but at the same time, I don't know. Maybe they're just sick of it. They're ready to get rid of the situation. I think that's the one thing that I just feel, and I think you feel it too, that it's going that way, certainly. I mean, here we are 10 days later, 11 days later, it's a real thing we're talking about here. That's plan A. I don't think that like gets out in the rumor universe without that being a real thing. Like it's a tangible thing that there's been conversations and it's not just like preliminary. There's been some more than just preliminary talks. First off, I think Chicago's trying to make a move no matter what. You listen to some people that at least I know in the league circles that are kind of in the know. I also think they're in the waiting for Deshaun Watson mode too. They need to make something drastic happen. Their defense is really good. Their offense has some pieces. We know the offensive line, is not great. Yeah, Allen Robinson, can they re-sign him, or who do they get at receiver? But it's not horrible. There's some other good receivers to fill in that roster. There's good tight end play that they have there. Running back situation, okay, there's work to do. But the one thing that's killed this regime there in Chicago has been lack of quarterback. From the get-go. I mean, ever since Mitchell Trubisky tripped his feet a little bit after the double doink year, it's been, whoa, we don't have a quarterback. How the hell did we pick Mitchell Trubisky before Mahomes and Watson? Why were we the team to do that? Holy crapola. Matt Nagy, I can't implement my full offense with this guy in the game. All these issues. Let's trade for Nick Foles. Blah, blah, blah. That didn't work. They're trying to save their butts and make the team better. I think they are the one team I look at to, like, if there's any that's going to make a move for Watson or Wilson, and Wilson specifically in this case, it makes sense. And they got some good defensive players that, of course, Seattle might like. There's no doubt about that. But I also look at it like this, Mike. It's like it feeds two bellies. It gives Nagy a quarterback to go, okay, I can run my offense. And then within that, Ryan Pace, he's going to be able to sit there and go, wait, here's a team, here's the quarterback. Now, can your offense go? It takes the pressure off of Ryan Pace, too, to where maybe, he could survive. Who knows? So I think there's the politics of this whole thing that go into this situation to go with it. And I think this is still very real, and we'll just see where this goes over the next few weeks.
I think a bold move like this does come with an opportunity to make the argument that they should have time to make it work, especially if they give up a lot to get Russell Wilson. It's not something where you've got 1 year left. Just the mere act of accomplishing that feat of getting Russell Wilson could buy them 2 years with Russell Wilson to really make it work, especially if they would have to wait until after June 1 to get Russell Wilson in the program, if that's what the Seahawks insist on to get a deal done. And really, it's going to be up to the Seahawks. Look, if the Seahawks say, we want to do this deal, but there's no way we can do it before June 1 and take a $39 million cap charge this year, they know going in that they're not going to get any draft pick compensation in 2021. And the Bears are sitting there with the 20th overall pick in the draft, and maybe that could be packaged with other picks, and the Seahawks could move up or just stay put and get their next quarterback. It then is up to them to figure out what they would do with those picks. But if they want to wait until after June 1, then they have to wait until 2022 to get draft pick compensation for Russell Wilson. I'm looking at their salary cap situation player by player on the Spot Rack website. They'd have to shed some guys to raise the $39 million because they're about $5 million under the cap right now. They would need to come up with about $35 million and just pull it out of the thin air to find it to offset, the Russell Wilson cap charge. But, as it stands, he's got a $32 million cap hit this year anyway. So you take a $39 million cap hit if you trade him, you only have to come up with an extra $7 million. But if you get Khalil Mack as part of the deal, you need to have $17 million to pay him too. So that's why it gets potentially complicated to come up with the numbers, the cap space to make it happen. But one of the things about the salary cap, if teams are really motivated to do something, they can figure it out. I don't want to gloss over it, but they can figure it out. That they have people who are paid full-time, good money to figure it out. We're just kind of, shooting from the hip here, just looking at things that would stand out to us. But I have a feeling they could pull it off. Either way, they're taking a $39 million charge. It's either all this year or 13 this year and 26 next year, and they can find a way to make that happen and balance that out if they decide that now is the time to move on from Russell Wilson.
What's your gut tell you? I mean, seriously, because, the Seahawks have two choices. It's like hang in there, right, for what it seems like one more year with Russell Wilson and try to make it work. And, it's Pete, because it seems like it's either trade now or there's one more year and it's going to be a trade. It just seems that way. It seems inevitable at this point. So is Seattle going to try to make it get, one more go? Or is Pete Carroll willing to rip the Band-Aid off like we talked about?
Yeah.
And make this type of move.
If you think it's done after this year, you're setting yourself up for a very dysfunctional year, right?
Definitely.
It's going to hover over the team every week. It's going to be part of every broadcast. It's going to be part of every production meeting. It's going to be part of most press conferences. Any hint, any sign, any reason to think that there's an issue that's going to be delved into. And it puts Russell Wilson in a tough spot because how do you deal with that over and over and over again?
Well,
do you put it to bed once and for all? And, I think that's what they would have to do. If they decide to go forward this year, they need to come together, put together a great PR plan for how to put this to bed, Bill Belichick style. One press conference, that's it. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to be asked about it. It's already been discussed. That's what you need to be ready to say. Anytime it comes up, it's already been discussed. It's already been discussed. We discussed that at the introductory press conference at the start of training camp. That's almost what they have to do. Otherwise, it will hover. And even if they do that and pull it off,
it's still going to hover.
They're still going to be asked about it. It's still going to be. It's going to fester until it's over.
No, exactly. Listen, and I don't really care. I don't know how it's going to be on Russell Wilson to handle it, in my opinion. That's where I talk. He's the one that brought this out. He's the one that went full scorched earth on the Seattle Seahawks organization here. So, it's him that has come out and said he's not happy. Seattle can just keep going. Talk to Russell. We were good. We're giving him a crap load of money, boatloads of it. Well, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, the Super Bowl ended, and he decided to attack every aspect of the football team, basically. So that's on Russell Wilson and how he wants to discuss this, whatever, and deal with the situation. And that's going to be a pain in the butt. And I don't know if it's in him to constantly just go, oh, we've moved on, or I've said what I've had to say. I don't think that's in him. I don't think he's that kind of guy that's just going to draw, that line in the sand and say, no, I'm not going to talk about it. He likes to talk. He's polite. I don't think he's going to give those type of answers. So I just feel the more and more we go here, if Seattle can just get something good in return and figure out who's going to play quarterback, because now that's the other aspect of this trade that we haven't hit on. What's Seattle going to do here with the Chicago Bears if they do trade Russell Wilson there? What? I mean, okay, they might. They go Nick Foles and play running ball, run the football, do that? I don't know. He doesn't seem to fit exactly what Shane Caldron wants to do outside, coming from the Rams and all that. I don't think movement is Nick Foles' game. Now, there's other options out there, whether that's the Tyrod Taylors, the Ryan Fitzpatricks, the Andy Daltons. Maybe the Seattle would do that. But I can't imagine them being real successful with one of those guys at quarterback, not with the way their team is built right now. And that's the thing I keep coming back to. They've gone in on trying to make Russell good. The defense is not special. The offense is work in progress. And the team's not in a place right now to where you can just bring some ho-hum average quarterback in there and think you're going to get it done. They're right now in a spot where they need that superstar. So I don't know where it goes. Sorry, what?
Three things. One, first of all, I feel like for Russell Wilson, the bridge has been crossed, and it's just a matter of getting the plan implemented between now and the start of training camp. And even though it's been quiet for the last 11 days, and I know, number one, there are fans who are in denial about this, and that's okay. I would be too. I wouldn't like the idea of Russell leaving. There are people in the media who don't want to have a juicy story land in their laps because that actually might require them to work, so they act like it's a non-story. So just because it's quiet doesn't mean there isn't something happening, because it was quiet for 2 weeks until the Athletic story and the comments from Mark Rodgers, boom, and it all gets dusted off again. So I think there's something there, and I think Russell's ready to do it now. He wouldn't be talking like he did.
No doubt.
He wasn't. Second point,
right.
Point number two, it's not Shane Caldron, it's Shane Waldron.
Oh, my gosh.
Although I think Shane Caldron is a cool-ass, sorry London name, I would like to be known as Shane Caldron. I just like the sound of it. Number three, I've seen others suggest that the Seahawks can't trade Russell Wilson to a team that can't include as part of the package the quarterback who is plug and play into the Seattle offense. So the Bears don't have anybody that they can trade back at quarterback, so they can't be the team to which Russell Wilson is traded. And that's just, I was polite about it yesterday when I said that's kind of confusing. I'll say now that's ludicrous to suggest that. Anyone in the media who would suggest that you must have the answer at quarterback that you trade back to the Seahawks doesn't understand how football works. There are other places where they can get their quarterback. There are, as you were suggesting, they could sign Tyrod Taylor. They could evaluate any free agent that's out there.
Jameis Winston.
They can pursue a trade of any guy that's out there. You don't have to do it all in one transaction. You can take that 20th overall pick that the Bears send you, and you can see how it falls together there. And one other thing you can do, and this happened back in 2017. Who did they bring in for a visit, but not a tryout, who was looking for a job at the time? And who were they concerned about adding to the team at the time? Because at the time, there were guys in that locker room that resented Russell Wilson, that didn't think he was as good as he thinks he is. Those guys are now gone. One of them is Richard Sherman. What if they had added Colin Kaepernick then? They didn't want to do it because they wanted competition at all positions except starting quarterback. Hey, there's a guy who's out there. Hey, he's a year older than Russell Wilson. They saw what he can do. They had to defend against him. If you're trying to find a replacement for Russell Wilson, would you rather have Colin Kaepernick or Nick Foles? in that offense.
Well, yeah. I mean, in Colin Kaepernick's prime, but that's gone. That's not reality. That's not going to happen.
Well, but it's at least as you look under rocks. That's a rock to look under.
Sure.
That's my point.
I know.
If you're looking for another quarterback, there's plenty of guys out there.
There's guys out there.
You don't have to have it as part of the trade. That's my point. The idea that it has to be part of the trade is ludicrous to me.
No, there is. You're right. And, can you work out a three-way trade? Is there something like that? There's those possibilities. Hey, you talked about the number 20 pick. I don't know if there's going to be anybody there, worthwhile for them right now. At that, I don't know.
Who do you think of your 6 guys?
Right.
Because last week you suggested all 6 of them are going to possibly go in the first round.
Yeah, I think the 5 for sure. I think Trey Lance
would still be there at 20.
Well, I think Trey Lance is the guy that'll be out of the first round. So when I look at the first 3, I think all first 3 are top 10 picks. That's for sure. When you just talk about Wilson, Lawrence, and Mac Jones, I think they're all top 10 picks, like we discussed. Mac Jones, to me, is clearly a better prospect than Tua was coming out, and he was the number 5 pick of the draft. And I'm not saying that to put down Tua. I'm just saying Mac Jones is a top 10 pick. I think Kellen Mond is in that next group, right, to where maybe he could be there around 20. Again, Kellen Mond's first-round talent to me. I'm not backing off of that. What I see on film and everything I see, it pops off. I don't know what there is not to like about the guy. All these people who wanted to jump on Johnny Manziel and him coming out of Texas A&M, I want to go, this guy is like light years better than him. His game translates better than the NFL. So he or a Justin Fields could be there. I think those are the 2 guys you would look at, right? And, hey, they could make it work with either one if they wanted to play that type of football. Justin Fields, you could really play, run the quarterback, Cam Newton, what we saw a little bit with the New England Patriots type offense because he's that kind of physical specimen. So you could do that. Maybe. But here's the other thing. The quarterback thing, you're right. They can figure that out however they want to. If they really want to just get this done and not deal with Russell Wilson and get it over with, they'll figure it out. And this is a team that I don't think is all scared necessarily to play without the quarterback. I don't think they are. Just their history would tell me that they think they can do it other ways playing that game. But here's the other thing too, Mike, that I just bring up. Like if you're the Bears, right, and your ownership and all of that, and that this could be it for Pace and Nagy, are you going to give them the green light to just go trade whatever future assets you want so we can screw over the next regime that comes here just in case too? That's another aspect, I think, of this as well, where at least if I'm ownership or in charge there in Chicago, I'm keeping a close eye on that to go, wait, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't want to just totally open up the cupboard here and have nothing to just go all in to save Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy as we go forward too. And I think that's another aspect that needs to be tossed around a little bit.
Here's the question.
Yeah.
Here's the question.
Right.
Is Ted Phillips, who's been the CEO of that team since 1999, is he in danger along with Nagy and Pace? Because any time that the job security comes up, the coach and GM now, I mentioned Ted Phillips because he's in one of these jobs where you get a pass.
Yeah.
You are part of the football operation. You're responsible for hiring the GM and the coach, but you aren't accountable like they are when things go sideways. What have the Bears really done since Ted Phillips became the team CEO? So if he believes that he'd be part of a house cleaning, and he still has influence over George McCaskey, the chairman of the team, and I assume that Phillips does or he wouldn't be there, then Phillips can persuade George that let's do this Russell Wilson thing. And, of course, when you're talking about that level of communication, it's far more subtle, it's far more nuanced. But I think that Phillips, if he's in the Pace, Nagy,
trio,
I may be on the endangered species list, and I may go with them, then he can try to push it through. If he is safe on the other side of the get-fired firewall, that's when Phillips could say, well, we know what you're really trying to do here. You're just trying to delay the hatchet by a couple of years by making this big splash for Russell Wilson. But the other side of it, Chris, they haven't had a great quarterback.
No, I know.
In decades.
I know.
They tried to get they did get Jay Cutler. They hoped he was going to be great. He did set some franchise records, but what did he ever really do?
Right.
They still haven't had that great quarterback since Sid Luckman. Some would argue that Russell Wilson walks through the door as the greatest quarterback in the history of the Bears organization. Of course, he'd have to prove it in a Bears uniform. And so, I can understand why the Bears would want to do it. How often is it that a franchise quarterback, short list, one of the best quarterbacks in football, wants to play for you? When that happens, I think you owe it to yourself to see if you can make it happen.
No doubt. I don't disagree with that one bit, certainly. And it is a, as far as just fanfare, propaganda, whatever, you're right. Chicago is going to be so excited. The assets that go out the door and things like that are just going to be swept under the rug because they're going to go, man, we got Russell Wilson. We got a guy here. Finally, all these years we've been watching damn Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and Green Bay's had all this great luck at quarterback and everything like that. And here they got a guy like that. That would be huge news, yes. And I still think, keep our eye on this because I really think.
Chris, I got a quiz for you.
Yeah.
I got a quiz for you. I got a question for you. Right. Over-under style. Over-under style.
Yeah.
Number of quarterbacks drafted by the Seahawks with Pete Carroll and John Schneider in Seattle. The over-under is 2.5.
Oh, you're saying, so how many have they drafted? You're at 2.5 since they've been there. Let's see. So I'm just trying to think off the top of my head here. Man, I feel like he's the only one they've drafted. Am I correct?
No, there's one more. Alex McGuff, 2018 7th rounder.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
That's the only guy that's been drafted since Russell Wilson at quarterback. He's also on the roster, along with Danny Etling and Geno Smith. Safe to say none of those three guys will be the starting quarterback in the event that Russell Wilson is traded. But really, isn't that odd that Pete Carroll has insulated Russell Wilson from any type of real competition? That this is the coach who preaches compete, ones against ones. We're always competing. We're always looking for the best, except at the QB1 position. And they're going to pay for that because they don't have a guy that you could turn to and say, we'll just bump him up. How many times do we see a guy get injured? And, we have a guy in our system. He's ready to go. We've been grooming him. They don't have anybody they've been grooming.
No.
So that exacerbates the problem for them as they try to find a replacement, if they end up having to find a replacement if Russell Wilson gets traded. It's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible. And again, it doesn't have to come from the Bears. It's not like they're going to sign Mitchell Trubisky and send him to Seattle as part of this. And look, Seattle could sign Mitchell Trubisky. He's going to be a free agent. You mentioned Cam Newton. They could sign Cam Newton for crying out loud if they wanted to.
There's lots of avenues they can go.
They've seen Cam Newton at his best because they've faced him in the playoffs at his best.
Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy thought either. Again, that goes into, I think that fits a little bit of way maybe Pete Carroll would want to play football to a degree. Run the ball, control the clock, everything you saw New England do with Cam Newton last year. And, of course, Cam had some flaws throwing the football. He'll fix them. He's going to get back. I don't doubt that. It was a weird year last year. For everybody that thinks like you're going to continue to see Cam Newton miss 10-yard outs on the left and the right. That, it's not going to happen. He still can make things happen. So, yes, there's options out there. It's just about, do they want to take that cap hit like you're talking about? Do they want to be done with it, which I really feel like they do, because I just don't think Schneider and Pete Carroll are the type that want to deal with this type of crap. I never have thought it. And then, just we go back to the rumors back when his contract was coming up and the things you heard there. I just don't know if there was ever a full-fledged, we're all in love affair for Russell Wilson. I think there was reluctancy to pay him. There's obviously reluctancy to just go all in on him on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, we know that. That's why we're here and talking about this right now. And I won't be shocked. Here sometime in the next 5 or 6 weeks, all of a sudden we just wake up one morning and he's gone and he's out of town.
2 quick points before we pivot. One, when he signed his last contract, it paid at the time the highest average that any quarterback or any players ever received in the NFL, $35 million. Remember, after all that stuff with Jimmy Fallon, and they planted the question about, do you want to be the highest paid player in NFL history like Jimmy Fallon is paying attention to those kinds
good question, Jimmy.
Good. That's a great question, Jimmy. Thank you for reading it off the card that we gave you before the show. I was told at the time that was the last contract Russell Wilson would sign with the Seahawks.
Yeah, that probably pissed him off right there.
Closer and closer to it. And also, number 3, Russell Wilson's preferred number. Although he wore 16 at NC State and Wisconsin, 3 has been his identity since 2012. retired by the Bears, Bronco Nagurski. Another one of these issues that we may have, although George McCaskey, the chairman of the Bears, said 6-7 years ago that they may have to start unretiring numbers. They have 14 of them. And if they do, the first one would be number 7, because that's George Halas's number. The rare confluence of family members who can give their blessing and football team who can issue the numbers. The Halas family can say number 7 is coming back. Maybe that would be Russell Wilson's number. Put him in number 7, the George Halas number in Chicago.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.